Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through a step-by-step guide of everything that I did to help grow a business from making $0 to making seven figures in almost a year. And some of the important things I wish I would have known when starting this process, right? Now, I'm not selling a course of anything. This is all free information. This is shit I've learned. I think it's just very valuable for you guys to understand, especially starting off. I wish I would have known this information. So again, I'm trying to be very authentic about what I did, what I didn't do. In different channels, right? Because I wasn't just a me effort. I had a collective group, things like that, right? So as a quick overview, I'm going to give you guys information about how to start, the product/service selection, how you're going to figure that out, finding your first client, converting the leads that you have into clients, implementation process, and post-implementation process, right? So some of the things I want to highlight is that my main role was over this stuff right here. I was overseeing the implementation process and post-implementation process, right? Now, everything else I understand and I witnessed firsthand, so that's why I can speak about it. But just to be very clear, most of the secret sauce I have is going to come from 5 and 6, right? So, how to start, right? So, the main thing you understand when you're trying to start a business, right, is the foundation, right? I think a lot of people skip over the foundation, and then this is why they don't see any result, right? Because they're trying to do something that just doesn't have the basic root of what a business is, right? So, what is a business, right? A business, they all follow the same core principle, right? You find a problem and you create a solution to fix that problem, right? Any business, that's what they do. They solve problems. That's the whole purpose of having a business, is so you can solve problems and that people pay you for that service, right? Now, some of the main things I want you to understand is that when you're trying to build any sort of business, right, you should really go off of what you're already good at. Something I kind of did the wrong way when I was doing some other stuff years ago is I was trying to pursue things that I sucked at or had really no experience in, and it was just kind of a waste of my time. And what that basically did is it made me decent, from what it was. But what really changed my mind was when I was presented an opportunity, right, to do something I was already pretty skillful in, and it allowed me to just grow at a much faster rate, right? It's easier to grow and become good at something once you already have the foundation than it is to start from nothing and to build it up, right? Um, it also just like when you're good at something, it just creates motivation, like momentum and motivation, which is like just really crucial and critical when we're first starting out. I think the main thing is when you suck at something, it's very hard to be motivated to want to keep on pursuing it. When I was doing the thing I do now, right, I was really good at it off the start, and that just motivated me to be like and just get better and just be insane, and I actually want to work at it. Now, going down to the product/service selection, right? So you've already identified the skill set. You kind of understand how businesses operate, right? What you kind of need to be looking for. You need to kind of start basically picking out what you're going to sell, right? So just to provide context of what I sell now, some of the things I help do, I help businesses convert leads faster, right? Which saves them time and increases their revenue, right? So what I do is that a person will come to me for the specific industry that we're targeting. They all have the same problem, really. They just can't convert leads. And so I help build systems, and these systems just basically help them improve their day-to-day operations, but it solves the number one problem that they have, which is just converting with leads. People will come to them and they just won't respond. Our system fixes that and make sure that they actually get responded to, and the clients close at a much higher and faster rate, right? So some of the most important things I wish I would have learned early on, and this was actually told to me by a client of mine when I was having lunch. He basically said, in the first year of business, you'll be kind of figuring out exactly what you're selling and who you're selling to. In the first 6 months after that, you'll know precisely what you want to sell and who your ideal customer is. In the 6 months following that, you'll have a system that works and you'll start generating consistent revenue. This is the most fucking important thing. If you're going to read anything from this and take anything away from this, take this. This is so damn important. Because when you're first starting out, like I said, it's going to be very, very unclear about what is happening. You're not going to know, right? I'm going to be blatantly honest. You're not going to know. You're going to do shit wrong, and that's part of it. Knowing this information, it makes it easier to understand, okay, eventually it does become better, right? Now, obviously, if you don't fix problems and you just let problems keep on happening over and over again, then this shit will not work. But as long as you're smart enough to identify when things went wrong and make changes accordingly, you should see no issue, right? So very important, right? So just to kind of go over what I did wrong and the results from that. Basically, what we did wrong when we were first starting off of the thing we were selling is that we sold customizable solutions, right? We would talk to clients and we figure out what they had problems with, right? and a lot of them had multiple problems. Like some were the same, but they all had very specific problems, right? And we would just take on anyone who's willing to pay. And by doing so, we'd be like, okay, we're going to do a customizable solution. We're going to save you guys time, things like that. And really, what happened with this and why I don't recommend doing maybe a customizable solution in a sense is that one, we had high client turnover, right? Because the reason we had high client turnover was it's very hard to solve every single problem for a business, right? Most businesses have very similar main problems, right? So, like, for example, we go back up here, right? We help businesses convert leads faster, right? That's like the number one problem most businesses suck ass at. They just can't convert leads. So instead of doing customizable solutions, we just do this because that's the main problem. When you try to solve too many things at once, clients get pissed off because you can't solve everything for them, and they end up just like canceling, right? And so what this does, it makes like one client either upset or content, right? And you really don't want a client who's content, right? You're going to have this every once in a while, right? You're not going to be able to have a perfect study on every single client. Not every single client's going to be completely happy all the time, right? You're going to have some that just do decent, but you really just want them to never all be content, right? Because you really want them to refer you other business, which again, we'll break down this later, the importance of referrals, things like that. But again, you want happy clients, not content clients, right? Now, some of the other things, just from my perspective, it took me like 24 hours just to onboard a client, 25. And this was just stressful, a lot of work, a lot of late nights. I was up to like 2 a.m. a lot of nights just trying to get shit done. And it felt like the business was barely surviving, and I was just kind of constantly like stressed out. So what really changed everything is we went down and just said, fuck it, we're not going to do this customizable solution shit anymore. We're going to just solve the main problem, right? Which is converting leads much faster, which I broke down up there, right? So once we did this, this is kind of the overview of what happened, right? So turnover, we dropped to 3%. We don't really see clients canceling. A lot of times the clients who do cancel are clients from the previous solution, right? A lot of times we don't see cancellations as much. Like I don't think with this new solution we've seen one single cancellation. So this rate might be even lower, but also some of the things is that our average client in the first month after implementing our stuff, they increase their business by 25%, which for this industry means that they make their investment back plus a lot more just in the first month, right? Now, some of our recent clients, they were hitting 60 to 80%. One of the more recent ones, he just had like an 82% increase in revenue, or like something crazy like that. Like, dude basically doubled his business, right? Just he's just done so well, right? Some of the things is I'm not onboarding. It takes me 5 hours. I can onboard a client in no time at all. It's very easy because it's the same thing every single time. And we went from struggling, like I went from struggling to handle 10 clients to now being able to handle 65 active clients. Right. And some of the other things I don't think it's on here, but I want to add is that this should have been 20 clients, right? At the time, sorry, the serving 65. In terms of onboarding, which is the thing I do, I can go from now handling like 10 active builds. I went from having to only be able to handle 10 active builds. Now I can handle up to 20 now, right? So I can handle up to 20 people actively building out shit for them at once. No problem at all. And now we're just clearing almost 6 figures monthly, right? Like the revenue portion is very easy. Also with the business model we have like monthly subscription. So this shit obviously grows as well. But at least in terms of setup fees, yeah, we're clearing a lot of money that way. So again, one of the lessons I want to kind of just go over is that you need to stop trying to be everything to everyone, right? Don't try to be just going after money and money, because the problem with this is that, again, you just have unhappy clients at the end of the day. But it's also better to be exceptionally well at one thing than it is to be pretty good at a bunch of different things, right? Right. People, if you solve one problem really fucking well, I think I saw this last, I forgot from who, but they were basically using this example, right? They were saying that when people think of a problem they have, you want them to think of your name, right? So like, let's say that you're the only person in your industry that can run paid ads a certain way, right? You want people to, anytime they have a problem with paid ads, they think of you because you're the only person who is capable of solving it at such a high rate, right? You don't want to be the guy that everyone's like, oh, they could do all these different things, because it just becomes like, again, it just becomes a problem, right? So be really fucking good at one thing and just scale the shit out of it. Is my recommendation, right? Okay, going on to number three, we got finding your first client, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is the stage that I didn't really have to do that much. I'm not a salesperson. And going back up to the very top of this document when I mentioned, skill set, I don't have like sales skills at all, but this is actual real shit that we did. I tracked all of it. I looked at everything to see how it was working. So this is what we did. And this is why I recommend, again, just from research, reading things, this is really the important parts. So you're going to have four channels, right, when it comes to outbound, right? You're going to have cold outbound, you're going to have warm outbound, you're going to have paid ads, and you're going to have organic social media content. I'm going to break down each one of these, but the most important one, which is the freest, the easiest one to do, is just cold outbound, right? So cold outbound can consist of DMing people on Instagram, on connecting with them on LinkedIn, messaging there. You have email, and then you have cold calling, right? So cold calling is the best one, in my opinion, and it's the one that no one wants to do, right? I understand. I feel like for my generation especially, we don't like talking to people as much. The whole like social media wave kind of destroyed any sort of like confidence when it comes to calling people directly. We just prefer texting, but the reality is that if you want to do business with people, a lot of times you have to call them. And so yeah, they would cold call it a lot. Like I would sit next to a guy and just listen to him cold call for 8 hours, 9 hours a day. And yeah, it was uncomfortable, right? For most people, it's uncomfortable, and you'll get rejected constantly, and it feels like a grind, right? Like this whole part right here is the trenches, right? Finding your first client is the trenches. It's not easy. It takes time. And here's kind of the reality of what happened, right? So some of the things is that it's high effort, but it's high reward, right? You also get immediate feedback, so you'll know instantly if your offer actually resonates and if it makes sense to pursue this, right? It also builds thick skin, which is very important, because then once you build thick skin, it makes it easier to cold call more people, right? For example, if you cold call 100 people, you're going to be way better off being able to call another 100 people than you would be going from 0 to 100, right? Because you just already have been rejected so many times. You don't really give a shit. The whole rejection thing, you don't really feel it anymore. One thing is also like the algorithm changes. So like, again, with emails, things like that, you don't have to worry about this. Like you're directly calling people, things like this. It's pretty straightforward. And then also, one of the things I want to highlight is that if you're willing to pick up the phones when others won't, you'll get clients while they're still waiting for their content to go viral, right? I think most people try to rely purely on social media in order to get clients. And again, it's not a bad channel. I definitely recommend it, but you need to be going out and doing other things outside of just one channel specifically, right? It's kind of important that you do all of these at some point, but again, it's very important that you use cold call, right? Again, it works, right? You could look at any salesperson; they're going to tell you it works. It's not like you could just call like 5 people and get them all on calls, right? You can eventually get to that, and like that's not how we are nowadays. Like we can cold call basically anyone. Well, not really cold call. Like we have a very targeted approach to it, but we can definitely call people up and get them on calls relatively easily. But at first, shit was not. It just takes time, right? Now the next channel, right? You have cold email, and one of the things I get asked a lot from people is like, does this actually work? And my response is yes, it does work. I have seen it work, but it definitely depends on your approach to it. I think email is the number one most underrated tool that people just don't use, but you have to be very careful about how you target these campaigns, right? So I used to run a lot of cold campaigns for clients. So that's literally what I would set up. I would help them write the content. We would launch the campaign. We would have very targeted approaches about this stuff. And I'm going to give you guys kind of the outcomes of 2 different clients I worked with, right? So for this one client, we did a targeted approach, right? We had a specific industry that was maybe 6,000 contacts we could find on the internet. And we had a very specific problem that we could solve them. This had a very high success rate, right? With a broad approach, right? So we had another company that had more of a broad scope, right? They're trying to target a list of 100,000 people. There's really little to no results. I mean, they still got results, but it was way less than this, right? So again, right here, this marketing company, they had only about 6,000 prospects. And just from doing so, they invested about 3 to 4 grand with us. I don't know the exact amount, but they generated 32,000 from those clients, roughly, right? Because their service was about 8,000, I think. So again, generate a couple clients, and they made 10x what they paid us to do, right? This is like the best case scenario. So now going on to LinkedIn and Instagram, right? So LinkedIn really does work for B2B. I think people don't use LinkedIn as much. We like one of the things our company has is that we offer like this tool which like does it automatically for you, and this really does work. Like that's how we use a lot of it. But I've seen people not be able to use it as often. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole cold email approach where it's like you have to have a very targeted approach about how you do this, or it's just not going to work. Um, but some of the things that I've seen just from LinkedIn campaigns that have worked is that, again, it just builds genuine conversations. And sometimes these clients aren't the perfect fit, right? Which is okay. But because they like us, they will give us referrals to their friends, things like that, right? And it's just less aggressive than cold calling, but or cold emailing, right? And most of the time, you'll get a response on most people, right? The thing about cold calling is that people don't like being called, right? For the most part, and cold email, right? There's a lot reality your shit can hit the spam. LinkedIn most of the time is going to hit their inbox because you're connected with them. So again, you just get a direct one-on-one conversation with this person. Most people are more willing to respond to text message than they are a call. So again, I think cold calling is still the best one, but LinkedIn you can definitely see some results. Instagram is really good too. So kind of follows the same premise as like LinkedIn. I think Instagram is better for younger demographics, or if you're targeting like a specific like person, right? So LinkedIn's really good for B2B. If you're someone trying to offer services to like people who do coaching or consulting, things like that, where it's just maybe one person, Instagram usually is probably a better place to do that. The one downside to Instagram is that it's very highly saturated, and I want to make this fucking clear. It's really, really saturated. Like, there's you can go online, but there's 1,000 people trying to do this, so they'll just DM everyone, and so it's really hard to stand out. But if you can stand out, you will get some results with it, right? Now, going on to the second channel, like I mentioned below or above, is Warm Outbound. So Warm Outbound is like the easiest. Like this shit is like layups. Like if you think of basketball terms, like this is just layups. Like this is easy. This is going to be friends, family, or existing network. And this is really good for, building case studies and just the initial credibility, right? Which again, case studies and credibility is very important, especially starting off. A lot of times with Warm Outbound, I would recommend just reaching out to your friends or family and just offering to do the service for free in exchange that you can build a case study and get credibility, because this helps you sell things like that, right? Now, some of the next things is that you can do paid ads. I don't recommend you start here. I recommend you eventually do paid ads, just not now, because you want to really have revenue and prove that this offer can work and then start scaling it. I think if you start running paid ads at the start, you have to be really confident that's going to work. And paid ads really, in my opinion, they work better for like product-based businesses. For service-based, it does work, but like in reality, I think you could get away for the most part. Not having to run paid ads at first for products is 100% recommended, right? So again, if you're running a product, do paid ads to start. If you don't have a product, you have a service, you should wait maybe a little bit. Then we have organic social media, right? So let's break down the math, right? So social media, everyone thinks, oh, it doesn't work, it doesn't convert, but you have to look at percentages, things like that, right? So let's say that you're posting 3 times a day at 400 views each, right? Which is like pretty standard about every single video. You're going to be getting around 1,200 views a day, right? In a month, that's 36,000, right? 36,000 people seeing your shit. And again, as you improve and actually like try to improve your content, right? The algorithm will pick up and those numbers will grow. So this is like very much a baseline of what you'll be hitting, right? You should be realistically hitting about 100 to 200,000 a month at first. I think achieving that is very easy. And again, what you should do, I need you guys to just sit there, take out a calculator right now, and calculate how much you think you could get views per month, right? Then all you need to do is take that number and times it by 0.1%, and you'll see exactly how many calls roughly you'll get, right? Because achieving a 0.1% conversion rate is incredibly low, and that's like you could easily hit that, right? So For example, let's say that we, have, let's just do 250,000, right, a month. So yeah, if I get 250,000 a month, this percentage, it gives me about 25 calls, right? Which again, 25 calls, you could easily close 3 of them. That's not hard, right, at all. So again, it's just a numbers game. I think the best thing I learned from Alex Hormozi, you should definitely watch this because this is how this is kind of how we did it, is that it's just numbers, right? If you can just keep on going, eventually you're gonna close someone. I think the biggest problem people don't think about is like if you like, it's very hard to like lose if you just keep on going, right? Especially with outbound, if you just keep on going, you're going to eventually win, and you're also going to learn a lot of skills that eventually help you in the future, right? So just kind of important to just kind of think about this on a very niche scale, right? So now we're kind of going into like what actually works for us, right? So some of the things that we do now, right, I mentioned above, is referrals. Referrals are basically our primary channel now. We don't really have to do outbound that much. People just really call us, or we can directly reach out to them. Yeah, and referrals is like the best way. This is like your bread and butter because people are coming to you to give you money. You don't have to do anything, and chances are, a lot of times they're going to be sold. They're going to be sold to you because their friends have recommended it. And if you're at least reaching out because someone else gave you that connection, you're gonna be like, oh, I worked with, your friend, this person. And they're gonna be like, oh, okay. So like it builds trust, builds credibility, just a lot easier to close. Um, but again, you can't get referrals without getting clients first. So just understand that you want to eventually get to a point where referrals is your primary source, but you're not gonna get there initially. Just that's not possible for the most part. It is possible, but it's very rare that happens. So this is our actual path, right? So it was early days was cold calling, LinkedIn outbounds to get kind of the first initial clients. And then they would make 100 cold calls. He got rejected constantly, but close enough to build momentum. And then once we started delivering actual results, it helped us build case studies and then got testimonials, which allowed us to get referrals that started flowing, right? So again, right now we're at 65 active clients right now, and roughly 70% of that probably came from referrals. I don't know the exact stat, but I'm like pretty sure 70% of it is. Again, it's a lot of business at this point. So again, the pattern that works is that you should use outbound, right, to get the first 5-10 clients. Once you deliver that result, you build case studies, and then the referrals become your main engine, right? So follow this exact process, and I'm telling you, you're gonna be successful, right? If you can just do this, you're gonna be chilling, right? It's gonna be very hard to fail. Again, the most important part is actually delivering exceptional results. You deliver shit results, these two become extinct. It doesn't matter, right? So you just gotta get people to pay you and for you to do actual good results, and everything else becomes easy at that point. So now we're gonna go to kind of converting leads into clients, right? So getting someone on the call is half the battle, right? Now converting them into a paying client is where most people fumble. Most people fuck up at this stage, and this is why you're not succeeding, right? So here's what most people get wrong after just listening to a lot of sales calls. And again, for reference, we have some of the best people in the whole city for sales. So it kind of makes it very hard to pick up some of these things. But here's some of the things I've learned from them, some of the things that they've just told me that actually do work, right? So they treat sales, so a lot of people who make mistakes, they treat sales like an integration. Pronouncing it wrong, but you get the idea. Or a presentation, like neither works, right? So this is kind of the framework that actually converts, and this is what we do, right, to actually get qualified people through the door. Some of the things is that we just qualify them, like we just make sure they're actually a good fit. You do not, and I can't trust this enough. You do not want to work with people who are not good fits. I know the money's tempting, but do not fucking do that. We did this completely wrong at first, and we didn't do this, and it made my job insanely fucking hard because a lot of these people would have a million problems that I just literally couldn't solve, and it made them cancel really easily. So qualify. Like, do you actually, can you actually solve a problem? Can they afford it, right? This is arguably fucking important. You don't want to hop on a call with someone who can't afford what you're selling because then you just wasted a whole entire hour knowing that they can't buy from you, right? It's pointless, right? Also, one of the things is that you need to make sure that they actually can afford it, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a little life lesson, something that we did wrong. And I might cover this down in the onboarding a little bit more, but you got to make sure that they have money and that they can pay you. Don't do any work without them paying you first, because they will fuck you over. Just plainly, people will fuck you over if you don't charge. And you offer to do the services first and then pay you later. Never do that. I will, again, break this down later, but make sure that they can afford, they can actually pay, things like that. And you just need to know, are they ready to take action, or are they just exploring options? Again, gives you kind of a better framework when you hop on the call with them. So going down to discovery, not the pitch, right? So once you get on the call, your job on the call is to understand their situations deeply, right? What's the actual problem they're facing? What is costing them? What have they tried before? What happens if they don't fix this? If you go through this exact process, it's going to be very easy, right? So I'm going to give you kind of a breakdown, right? For our business, right? What's the actual problem they're facing? They can't convert leads. And so what's it costing them? It basically costs them all these three, right? It costs them time, money, and opportunity. Mostly money is really what cost them. What have they tried before? A lot of times they'll mention like they tried this other software company, things like this. And right here is what we ask, and they'll say they tried this other software company 9 to 10 times. And this is where we kind of just sweep in and we say, okay, well, here's what they do wrong. Here's how we do it differently. And it makes it easy to build credibility. And then what happens if they don't fix this, right? We'll just be like, you're going to keep on losing money. You're going to be wasting your time, be more stressed out, things like that. So again, if you can do this, you can easily talk to anyone, get them to buy your shit, right? And the thing is, most people will rush the pitch. The best salesperson is, what you need to do is just ask questions and listen, right? If you get someone in a conversation to just talk all the time and get them to basically just blurt out all their problems, you can take every single thing of that and just use it to your you can leverage it to basically use it to your advantage, right? Just listen to the problems they have and then be able to just tell them how you can fix it. It's not fucking simple, right? So again, step 3, present your solution as a bridge. So again, once you have got them to like yap, go over the problems, show them how your service is a bridge from where they are to where they want to be, right? So here's the formula we use. We say you're currently at here, their current state. You want to get to this, the desired state. Here's exactly how we'll get you there. Our solution. Here's what it costs and how you can expect a return, right? Which again, with our case studies, this makes it incredibly easy for this part, because we'll be like, so here's what it costs. Here's how much you can expect, and this is how much you can expect in return. If you don't believe us, check out our case studies. People, average at least 25% from buying from us in revenue. So that's why case studies are very important, because now here you can just provide credibility that you guys actually can solve the problem, things like that. But again, follow the same framework and you'll be good. Now, this is not like as easy as I think. Like everything I'm saying right now might be like, oh, this makes sense. Like this is actually incredibly easy. Not necessarily. You're gonna have objections. That happens. So a lot of people are gonna say I need to think about it, right? So this means that you just didn't build enough urgency or clarity. So you need to go back to like basically why they need it right away. It's too expensive. They just don't see the value in it, right? So if someone says it's too expensive, you basically just need to reframe it, right? And you could basically just say, okay, so you're currently losing this amount per month in uncovered converted leads. Our Y investment pays for itself in C weeks, right? So you could basically say, okay, let's give real numbers, right? Let's say that they're losing $10,000 a month from this, right? You could say, okay, so you're losing $10,000 per month. Our solution's $5,000, and you will make that money back and your problem's fixed, right? It basically makes it seem like they're stupid for not purchasing your shit, because you're going to, one, make them get out of the hole of losing money and make them more money in return, right? Then the number one I see, and this is the one everyone hates, I need to talk to my partner / team. This is like often like a pretty real example. Like and a lot of times if they're qualified and actually interested, they will follow back up. But sometimes when you're talking to people, they might not be the main point of the decision. They might be like a manager, or might be like someone who's up there, but not the complete owner. So you have to just make sure you follow up with them immediately. There are gonna be a lot of different objections, but sometimes they literally can't make the decision and they need to talk to someone else. So just make sure that you really follow back up with them and try to get this scheduled. So now going on to step 5, right? So is close with confidence, right? As they're qualified, they see the value and you've answered their questions for the sale. You basically can just say something. So based on everything we discussed, does this feel like the right solution for you? If yes, you send the contract invoice immediately. If no, find out why and address it or just disqualify them, right? The goal is to get them to say yes and then just send them the invoice. You want them to pay immediately, collect the money, things like that. Do not wait to send the contract. I know I don't think anyone would do this, but just for reference, send this shit ASAP. Do not do anything. After you get off the sales call, if they said yes, send this shit over, get them to sign, get them to pay right away. If you wait, you're going to lose money. So just for reference, we close about 60% of our qualified calls. And the keyword is qualified here. Like, we just don't waste time on people who we can't actually help, right? Like in our industry that we target, there are people who do this thing, and then there's like manufacturers who help. We won't sell to the manufacturers. We'll use them as a point of getting referrals and affiliate stuff, but we just don't sell to them, right? Because they're not qualified. So like, just be very clear about who the fuck you're selling to and make sure they're qualified. Don't try to sell to everyone. And then the secret most people miss out about this is that the best way to improve your close rate isn't better sales tactics. It's just better results for your existing clients. People really don't do this. And again, this is what we fucking use. And this is what allows us to make this shit so easy. Having great results makes it so fucking easy to sell to anyone because that's all they care about. Can you give me results? If I pay you money, can you get me results? Because most of the time, if you qualify them, you're already going to know that they can pay you. So the main thing you just need to know is be like, hey, here's the case study, right? It's also good at some point to have case studies on your website. So when people like come check you out, they already know that you guys can do this. Makes a sale call a lot easier. But again, if you get case studies, get referrals, things like that, just having good results makes it so fucking easy. Now going down to implementation, right? So this is where I'm stepping, right? This is my main point of contact. So I'm gonna give you guys a full breakdown of everything I do down to a T. And yeah, this is gonna be a lot of value here because I've been doing this shit for roughly 2 years now. So this is where most businesses lose clients, right? So we've had people who have paid us, they start working, we fucked up, and we've lost the client, right? So let's say you made the sale, they're excited, and then you just drop the ball in delivery, which is the number one thing you do not do. Do not drop the fucking ball. If they paid you, you deliver on what the hell you sold them on. So here's why implementation matters in sales. A bad sales process loses you one client. Bad implementation process loses you that client, their referrals, and their reputation, right? Again, like I mentioned above, this is a referral game. And reputation is a game as well. You lose this shit, you're cooked, right? You're going to cook yourself, especially reputation. If people don't trust you, they're never going to work with you, and you're going to have a hard time trying to generate business, right? So here's kind of our implementation process that took me from having to work 25 hours per client per week to roughly, not 25 hours per week, but 25 hours for the whole setup to about 5 hours. So we do an onboarding call, right? So immediately after they sign up, we welcome them properly. We set crystal clear expectations, give them access to whatever systems we need. So they have a CRM website, things like that. And we schedule all follow-up calls in advance. So some of the things you need to know is that, again, if you're the one-person team, they've already met you, so you just got to welcome them properly. You've already met that much there. If you have another team member, make sure that they actually give them a proper welcome, right? They provide trust off day one. So that could be the person being like, hey, yeah, so like my name's blah, blah, blah. This is what I've done. Here's some of my skill sets, things like that. Just be very clear about what you're good at. Just helps build trust. Some of the things like that. Now, the most important part about this process is be crystal clear about what you're doing and what we need from them. If you skip out on this step, you're gonna have fucking problems. Like, you're gonna see a majority of your problems coming when you do not set crystal clear expectations. So something I do, for example, I tell everyone in advance, I'm like, hey, here's exactly the timeline of how long this takes. Here's what we're going to do at first. Here's what we're going to do next. Things after that. And I give them the proper channels to communicate when they need help with something, right? So we have a support team. I'm like, hey, if you have a support question that's outside of the project, go to this channel. If you have something regarding the project, come to me. I'm very clear about what they communicate with, who they communicate with, because if you don't set crystal clear expectations, they're going to be blowing your fucking phone up all the time. You're going to get annoyed with them. You're probably not going to respond for a couple hours. They're going to get pissed off, and it just leads to this giant cesspool of problems. So be very crystal clear. And again, sometimes with people, you're going to be very crystal clear. They're not going to really listen they're going to keep on doing something differently. You just have to make sure you put them back on track, right? Just remind them like, hey, like, by the way, for any information doing this, please just do this, right? Just keep on reiterating to them, and you won't ever have any problems. You have a lot of problems when you don't have clear cut expectations, and people get confused and they get pissed off because they're paying all this money and they don't know what the fuck's happening. Then again, giving access, this is just important for whatever you're doing. Again, I can't really tell you specifically what to do, but just get access to things you need. Then one of the things I recommend doing is scheduling all follow-up calls in advance. Or cut out, that's weird. Where was I at? Yeah. So here's what most people get wrong, right? They're vague about what's happening next, right? Like I said. Okay. So again, like mentioned above, this is what people get wrong. I've kind of already said this, but I'm just going to go over it again, right? They're vague about what happens next. This is the biggest mistake. You need to be very clear about what's happening, because again, if you're clear, clients will get pissed off. They'll constantly blow your phone up, asking for updates. They lose confidence in you, which is a big no-no. And then they'll question whether or not you know what you're doing. Again, big problem. If a client doesn't trust you, they're not going to put their friend on. They're not going to refer, because they're going to be like, well, fuck, I don't want to put my friend through this stuff, right? So some of the examples of how you can be specific is you can say, like, for week 1, we're going to do this. Week 2, we're going to do this. Week 3, we're going to do this. Week 4, we're going to do this, right? Just be very clear. It's better to set a clear path line than it is to be vague about what's happening. Like with every single client I onboard, I'm very clear about, like, hey, this is a step you need to take. This is when we'll get to this. This one will get to this. And it allows for me not to have to repeat myself when they're like, so when we're going to start doing this? When we're going to start doing this? I'm like, no, as mentioned in the call before, we're doing all of this in this week, right? Just be very fucking clear about this process. It's better to be over communicative than it is to not say shit at all. Now, I'm gonna give you guys this rule that I follow with any meeting I take, right? Because a lot of times you're gonna be meeting with clients on a pretty weekly basis. Never, and I mean never, leave a meeting without scheduling the next one. Don't do this. Anytime a client is like, hey, I'm not sure when I'll be available next week, I'll just send you a time. Don't do this. Don't fucking do it. Try to get them on a time no matter what. Just push very hard. Be like, hey, so like we'll just get something on the books just so we have it. We can always reschedule. The reason you shouldn't do this is because people are fucking busy. If they say, I'll reach out, or if you say, or they'll say, I'll reach out to you next week to schedule, you're setting yourself up to fail. Here's what's actually going to happen, and a majority of what I see happens. You email them, they don't respond. You email again, still nothing. You call, voicemail, and they ghost you, which is crazy because they fucking paid you, right? They paid you for this shit, and they still ghost you, right? So that's why you need to stay on top of your scheduling, right? And so what happens, right? Let's say that they just ghost you, right? They end up canceling, and it's not because your service is bad, but because they fell out of the rhythm and lost momentum. When you break this pattern, it's going to be very hard to keep them on the books, right? So just keep them constantly scheduled. Again, if they have to reschedule, then so be it. You can't control if someone reschedules. But what you can try to do is just make sure you always have a time booked. People are more likely to show up when you have something on the calendar than when you don't. And again, I've taken me sometimes 2 weeks to get people back on the books, 3 weeks to get people back on the books. And you also just want to get people through the process as quick as possible. You don't want to have like 25 clients you're onboarding, and then you have like 3 clients who you've had in there for months that you haven't finished, who are just kind of sitting there, because now it's hard for you to kind of do everything up at once, get it all done, get the next batch in. So very, very important that you just get people scheduled, right? So here's the solution to this, right? It says at the end of every meeting, right, you say, great, our next check-in is at this time, this date, this time. I'm sending your calendar right now. You need to book it while you're still on the call with them, and then put it in the calendar immediately. Do not wait to book this, right? I made this mistake of being like, oh, like I'll just do it later at the end of the day. Do this automatically. Schedule it, because it will send a confirmation. They'll accept it. It'll be on the calendar. Now, the only exception to this rule, right, is if you've already had all your meetings, implementations done, and now you're kind of transitioning into the post-implementation phase, right? So this is the only exception for this rule, because again, at that point, if you have nothing else to meet for, then perfect, right? Cool. Now moving into the next phase, which is the post-implementation phase, right? So you've already done the thing, you've already implemented it. Now it's time to actually go out of the process, right? So what you need to do is, one, you need to be actively monitoring everything, make sure that it's working, right? Checking in almost daily. How you guys doing? You guys seeing results? some of these things, right? Any issues, especially, yeah, be very clear, right? Like people don't care. Like issues will arise, right? Naturally, issues will happen. Happens to be for every single client. They always have 1, 2 issues. You just gotta make sure that you solve the issue as quick as possible and that you address it with them. Some people will have issues and they just won't tell you. So it's very clear that you ask them, hey, is anything wrong? Anything we can do to help, right? Because just because you have one solution that works really well doesn't mean that issues won't arise. So again, just find the issue, try to solve it as quick as possible. They'll be happy, they'll stay, right? Again, you want to have confidence, have them have confidence because it reduces buyer's remorse. Now, for the next couple of weeks, you just want to make sure you're tracking their metrics, seeing what they're winning, and then usually in week 1, you probably want to schedule a 30-day review call, but just make sure you get a 30-day review call, right? And this is kind of where all the magic happens. This is where you've onboarded them, you successfully set them up. Now it's time for the next stage of getting a new client, right? So you show them a date, right? So you're like, hey, like you're comparing stats, like this is where you were at before, this is where you're at now, right? Try to translate as much as dollars, right? Dollars make a lot. Percentages are good too, but definitely recommend if you can get a dollar amount to be like, hey, this is how much you're making now. Things like that. Ask like, how does it feel? Like, what else can we help you with, right? Things like that. Then again, this call really should just serve you for 3 purposes, right? It reinforces the value. It opens the door for upsells or additional services. Get testimonials and case studies while results are fresh. This is relatively really important for post implementation right here. This 3 things right here, because again, you want them to have trust in you. Then, because if you do a good job, right? This is only if you do a good job, right? They're gonna want to pay you to do more shit. So again, while you may offer one solution, you might have like other things that you sometimes do. This is where you can sell that shit too. And guess what? They're more willing to buy from you because they've already paid you for something and it worked. This is easy, free money. Like this shit is like easy money, right? Then again, you can get testimonials and case studies while results are fresh. They're talking highly of you. This is the best time to get it because again, you need case studies to help you do sales calls, and testimonials just help you get new clients without having to do really any outreach at all. So again, now sometimes you might not be able to get testimonials. So again, just a month like following that, you want to start requesting a little bit more often. And then some of the things that we do that really work is that after the process, after we've done the case study, done everything, we just check in with them every single quarter. It's so important that you just check in with your clients. Don't leave your clients in the dust. Check in with them every single quarter. Make sure that they're doing good. Again, they might have a new problem that you can solve. Again, comes back to the free money with upsells, right? So again, you just want to make sure that they see that you care about them, right? Don't just set their shit up, leave them in the dust, act like they don't exist, right? So some of the things I want to kind of just highlight again because of this is that some of the things I want to highlight because of this is that our client retention rate is 90% past 6 months. Our upsell rate is like about 40% for additional services. It could be a little bit higher. I'm not entirely too sure about the stat, but it's around 40%. And our referral rate is 70%. Like every single person we talk to gives us a referral. So the reason this works is because we're not just delivering a service, we're delivering results, and we prove it with data, right? When a client sees that the revenue increases by 25 to 8% in month one, they will stay with you long term. They'll buy from you more, and will tell everyone about you. And if you can get into this constant hamster wheel cycle, you're never going to be broke. You're always going to be making money in business, right? So again, system, right? It's just delivering exceptional results, tracking those results, asking for referrals, and then staying engaged long term, right? And quarterly check-ins could be maybe a couple of text messages back and forth. You really don't have to talk to them that often, but it's just good to do this. So some of the things I want to just kind of go over with, right? That's my last slide. I know it's been a long video, about 50 minutes, but the final thoughts, right, is that here's some of the things people think they need to do. You have to have the perfect website, you have to have a huge social media following, expensive paid ads, a complex funnel. You don't need any of this shit. Now, don't get me wrong. Eventually, you want this. You want all these things eventually. Don't think that you should just never do this because you need to, but it's not important at first. You really just need to have a specific problem that you solve better than anyone else, the willingness to do uncomfortable outbound work, a repeatable process that actually delivers results, the discipline to document and systematize everything. Again, if you don't document and systematize everything, you can't hire more people to do the work. You can't scale. Very important that you do this, and you're not going to have happy clients who refer others, right? So like I mentioned previously, the timeline, right? Month 0 to 6, you're going to be figuring out what you're selling, how and who you're selling it to. So you really need to go hard on outbound at this stage. Just get your first couple clients. Once you get your first couple clients, refine your offer, systematize the way you deliver it, build case studies. By the time you get to after your first year, you're going to have referrals coming in so easily, and you're going to be able to scale your operations and just basically make a ton of more money, right? By the time you hit the 18 plus mark, now you have a real business with predictable revenue, and you can easily relax, right? This after the 18 months, I wouldn't say relax, but like this is when you can kind of like take a step back and be like, oh shit, okay, I'm good, right? This is where I start feeling good. For everything below the 18 months, I was stressed out. Not stressed. I'd say I was just doing shit all the time. Now I'm in a position where I can actually record videos and not to, like just have the freedom to do this shit because I want to, instead of having to think about work. So again, we're about 65 active clients, clearing almost 6 figures a month because we followed this exact path. Again, this shit was not overnight. This took me over 2 years to do, but that's part of the process, right? So again, now it's your turn. I at this point, if you watch this video, if you don't take action, then it's really on you. I think everyone who watches this video can succeed if you put in all your effort to make it work. Don't be afraid to fail at any point. When I was first doing things, everyone was telling me that working this amount of hours was a bad idea. It's just you're gonna burn yourself out. Don't listen. Just keep on working. Just keep on grinding. It will work out. You just have to just believe in yourself. And at the end of the day, none of this shit will happen if you don't believe in yourself. So you guys got this. That's all the formula, right? This is everything. A breakdown. I don't necessarily know if it's a good idea releasing all this information because this is a lot of good shit, but I care about people, want to see people grow, and yeah, that's everything. So if you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe, like the video. I'll be making more content as I just best see things. I'm kind of just fucking around at this point with content.